Welcome to Volunteer Friendly, episode 12, The World's Worst Boss. Hey everybody, this is Will Doggett. Thanks so much for joining me. Volunteer Friendly is a show that's all about providing a question, a statement, something that's going to provoke thought in you, going to really make you contemplate it, and then go and discuss that with your team. If you're a worship leader, production person, anyone involved in making Sunday happen, then this podcast is for you. And every week we present some sort of topic, statement, or discussion that's going to provide a little tension. It's not going to be great. You're going to have to think through it. You're going to have to do some work to contemplate. Again, the goal of this is not for me to have a platform to discuss my personal ministry philosophies or to grow as a thought leader, but the opportunity is to present a question, something, a struggle that maybe we have. So we look and go, we should be doing this. We shouldn't be doing this. Why did we do this in the first place? And again, you can then in turn contemplate that on your own and discuss that with your team. Today, we're talking about the world's worst boss. We've all had either been the world's worst boss or we've all had the world's worst boss. And I want to talk more from the perspective of having the world's worst boss, in particular in a church context. This church, in this context, this could be your senior pastor. This could be, if you're a worship leader in a staff, one worship leader in a staff of a lot of different worship leaders. This could be the main worship leader. It could be your creative director. It could be your tech director, whatever it is. But you're listening to this and you're going, amen, I have the world's worst boss right now. Then let's kind of talk through that and let's see what we can do. And then at the end, as we often do, we'll provide 3 processing questions for 1, you to contemplate on your own personally, and then 2, for you to discuss with your team. I think there's a very good chance that your boss isn't as bad as you think they are. There's a very good chance that with a little simple discussion, there's a lot of similar themes on this show, but with some honesty and some simple discussion and just being honest with your boss, that you may be able to say some things, share some concerns with your boss that you realize they're not as bad as they used to be. I had a previous boss at a previous organization. I've told this story before on the show that I just was super frustrated all the time with. I felt like, how dare he ask me to do this at this time of day? This is so unreasonable. And he just simply said one day, listen, if I'm being unreasonable, just tell me. And if you can't do it, that's fine. Either I'll do it or we won't do it, or I'll find someone else to do it. And that was kind of like, oh yeah, that makes sense. If I communicate what's happening, how I'm feeling to someone, then they have there's 2 scenarios that could occur. There's 2 results that could come out of that. One, I say, hey, I feel like this is unreasonable for you calling me on a Saturday right before Sunday expecting something. There's no possible opportunity I can do that. 2 scenarios. One, they go, I am so sorry. I never thought about it from that perspective. I never saw it from your perspective. Man, I was being unreasonable. This is super valuable to me. What if we work out a way that we can get this done? Do I get it to you earlier? Maybe is that the thing? And you have the conversation. Or 2, maybe the conversation goes the other way where they put their foot down and go, this is what I pay you for. This is what you've got to do. And at that point, then you've got to decide, is this a place I want to be? Or do you need to do like what we talked about in episode 6, which is leave your church, right? Move to another place. That's very, very possible. Another scenario, and we talked about this in episode 6, is, I think in most scenarios, it's us. I think in most scenarios, our boss really isn't that bad. But if you're in a situation where your boss is being hurtful, abusive, immoral, asking you to do something that's immoral, then again, see episode 6, you got to get out of there, right? This is not a place you want to stick around. I don't think you need to try to be Martin Luther and nail your 95 thesis to the church door to try to reform it. I think you got to get out of there. You need to talk to someone. Don't stick around. You need to talk to someone and process stuff and say, they're asking me to do this, and it's just wrong. Like, it's just wrong for me to treat someone that way. And I think that needs to happen after that, again, that initial discussion, because you may find that you view it as this way, and it's not really an immoral thing. It's not really, they're not asking you to do what you thought. But again, there may be a scenario because there's evil in the world and people are idiots, that is happening. They're asking you to do something immoral, something wrong. In that case, you got to get out of there. Another resource I'll mention, we mentioned this in episode 6, is the book, The Tale of 3 Kings. I've linked to that in the show notes for this particular episode. It's an amazing book, and it's all about really people being hurt by church leaders, being hurt by other people, how to deal with that, and how God can use brokenness in you to actually shape you and actually do what the Bible says, where what Satan meant for evil, God meant for good. It's a super powerful book. It's a super, super powerful book. Another thing that I think that's super helpful, that let's say you're in a situation where again, you realize your boss is not asking you to do something wrong or moral, something that you feel uncomfortable doing. You're just constantly kind of looking at them going like, man, what is wrong with you? Why are you thinking this? Why are you making me do this? You got to have that discussion with them. But I think another thing that really helps me is asking for me to ask myself the question, how can I better serve my leader? How can I better serve my boss? If you're in a church situation, and again, you're looking at your senior pastor, and your senior pastor is over you, they're over the production person, the worship leader, they're over all these different people. Maybe one day you have compassion on them and go, man, like I'm super frustrated with them, but think about all the different people that they're working with right now. Think about all the different people that God has given them authority over, right? And that's a weird word to say, and that feels abusive sometimes when we think about it, but God has placed that person in your life and given them a place of authority in your life. So in what ways can we serve our leaders better? How can we make life easier for them? Maybe there's something that we're currently, doing that they asked us to do that we don't enjoy. And every time we do it, we grumble, we say something about it. It may seem small to us, but again, think about all the different people they're managing. Think about all the different people they're overseeing. And those things start to add up over time. So just look and think, man, how can I make the life of my leaders easier? Is there something I could do to change that? And I think if we look at those things, if one, we communicate when we feel like they're being unreasonable or unfair, something that seems wrong. And two, if we approach it with how can we better serve our leaders, then again, as long as they're not doing something immoral, asking us to do something that we feel like is wrong or goes against our conscience, something that we feel like God would not want us to do, then I think in most situations, everything's going to be fine. And we're going to realize we actually don't have the world's worst boss. We're going to realize, man, with a little bit more communication on my part from me to them, and with me going, okay, how can I serve them well? Everything's going to work out and be better. So let's wrap up this episode the same way we do every episode with 3 processing questions that 1, we can contemplate on our own, and then 2, discuss with our team. And this one may be kind of a sensitive subject because you're like, well, if I give this to my volunteers and they say I'm the world's worst boss, then this feels kind of weird. So maybe it's not for your team, but it's definitely for us and how we can change how we respond to our leaders and those in authority over us. If you want to make this easier for you to have these questions to process and then maybe again share them with your team, then head to volunteerfriendly.com, look for episode 12. That's this particular episode, this particular show. And you could download a free PDF of these questions so you can follow along, again, process together, process on your own, discuss together. So number 1, have you expressed your frustrations with leadership? Again, we go back to the beginning. If you haven't expressed your frustrations with leadership and you haven't told them how you feel, why you're so frustrated, they don't know, and they don't have an opportunity to change, to tweak, to clarify. So number 1, have you expressed your frustrations with leadership? Number 2, is your boss being immoral? Is your boss abusive? And this is, you're not going to share this with your team, but basically the point I want you to get is verbalize, is this a situation where I need to get out of right now? And if not, then there's probably some change on your part that's going to make this work. So number 2, is your boss being immoral? Is your boss being abusive? Number 3, and this is what we talked about at the end here, in what ways can you better serve your leaders? Number 3, in what ways can you better serve your leaders? The people that are in authority over you, how can you make their life easier? Okay. And I think by doing that and taking that approach, we're going to see things improve for us, as opposed to just us constantly going, I need my boss to change, to do this differently, to do this, to do that, so that I'm happier. We're taking this approach of how can we make their life easier? Again, as a reminder, if you want a downloadable PDF to make it easier for you to process these and then discuss with your team, head to volunteerfriendly.com, search for episode 12, which is this episode. You get a free downloadable PDF there. You can also join in the conversation on this particular episode, leave a public comment. Again, be kind, share your opinion. It's not the gospel truth. Don't be a jerk, but would love to have you join in the conversation there as well too. Thanks so much for joining me this week. I'll see you next week at Thursday, 10 a.m. Central for the next episode of Volunteer Friendly. Thanks for joining me, everybody. Take care. See you next week. Bye.